St. Patrick's Day is finally upon us, and other than it being a great excuse to get a little bit overly drunk, it's also a great time for some good food. So today I'm going to show you my favorite recipe, which is Irish beef stew. Meet me in the kitchen, let's make it happen. Fellas. Alright guys, so today again we're making a nice beef stew. Very traditional in terms of the ingredients with the mirepoix. We got celery, we got onions, we got carrots. We're gonna add a little Irish beer to add the Irish flair a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and break this down. This is gonna go in the braising liquid, so I'm not gonna peel this. This is strictly for flavor. We're gonna steal from it. I am, however, gonna peel and dice the other vegetables that we're gonna add towards the end, and those will be the vegetables that we actually eat with our stew. These are gonna get discarded at the end, so no need to waste the time peeling those. Give it a nice rough chop. Again, this is just for flavor in the braising liquid, so no need to get too cute with what you do in terms of the preparation. Couple carrots, couple stalks of celery, and a couple onions. So today for the stew, we're using a chuck roast. You want something around 3 pounds. This one right here is just shy of 3 pounds. When you buy a chuck roast, you want to look for good marbling, and you want it to be uniform in shape. You don't want to get one that's kind of thick on one end and thin on the other, because it's not going to cook as evenly. We're actually going to cube this up for our stew, about 1.5 inch thick pieces, roughly. You can kind of find the natural, parts in the muscle to help you as a guide when you're cubing this up. So like right here, for example, just follow along that. Some of the pieces may be a little bigger than others, but that's no big deal. They'll get a little bit more tender when it's actually part of the same muscle. So that's a nice little pro tip. So what we're gonna do is cube this up, get into a mixing bowl, season it, let it marinate for about an hour or so. Then we're gonna get the party started with our stew. You can do this in a pressure cooker or a crock pot if you want to, totally optional. But you can't go wrong with a good beef stew, especially when it's St. Patrick's Day. You need something to soak up all that alcohol you're about to partake in. A little green beer, not really my thing. I'm more of a Jameson guy, but let me know in the comments what your favorite St. Patrick's Day drink is. But this is what you're looking for. Those white lines of fat are flavor. That's good marbling. That's what you want to shop for when you're in the grocery store, when you're picking a chuck roast. All right, so for the marinade, real simple, guys. About a 1/4 cup of good quality olive oil. We're gonna go in with that just to coat the chuck roast. That's gonna help the seasoning stick to it. So a good 1/4 cup or so of that. Then we're also gonna add a tablespoon of garlic paste. After garlic paste, we're going in with a tablespoon of Italian herb paste. Then we're gonna add some smoked paprika and my all-purpose seasoning, just to cover all the bases. A little salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder, things of that nature. You wanna go pretty heavy on the salt for this because it's gonna sear and then it's gonna braise for a couple hours. So you wanna make sure that it's adequately seasoned. So my AP seasoning is actually low sodium, so after I season it with this, I'm gonna finish it with just a pinch of kosher salt. Next up, arguably one of the most important steps when you're braising anything is to get a proper sear on the meat. So we're gonna add about a tablespoon or 2 of avocado oil, which has a nice high smoke point. Then we're gonna lay our chuck roast right on in there. Press down so it's making good surface area contact with the skillet. That's gonna ensure you get a nice crust. Then just give it like 3 or 4 minutes. The sear is gonna add color, flavor, texture. Nobody wants to eat a piece of gray beef stew. If you gotta do it in batches, that's cool too. Can't rush perfection. Take a little break, grab yourself a drink. St. Patrick's Day, why the hell not? So once the meat is seared, we're going in with the mirepoix. Get those veggies in there. Let them start to release some of their flavor, some of the moisture. Scrape the bottom, get all those brown bits up off the bottom of the skillet. All that fond is going to release and add tons of flavor to your stew. Get that going. touch more oil and a pinch of salt. The salt's gonna help the moisture start to release from the vegetables a bit. Next up, we're going in with some tomato paste. It's gonna add a nice, deep, rich flavor, a little color, and help with the consistency. About 2 to 3 tablespoons of that. And then a nice teaspoon or 2 of beef base. This is low sodium beef base, so I'm gonna go a little bit heavier, probably 2 teaspoons. Add that to the party. That's gonna beef up the beef flavor, so to speak. And then I'm gonna deglaze with 1 whole Guinness extra stout beer. I'm gonna bring that up to a boil, let the alcohol cook off, leave it behind all that flavor. That's gonna give it that nice Irish stew flavor that we're used to. Let's give that a good mix. Again, scrape the bottom of the pot. And then we're gonna add 2½ cups of beef broth as well. All right, guys, so now I'm gonna add just a pinch of brown sugar. That's gonna help cut a little bit of the bitterness that comes from the beer. So probably like 2 tablespoons is all we're gonna need. I'll save some off to the side just in case we need it when we taste it, but 2 tablespoons should do the trick. We're also gonna add a tablespoon of worst word in the world sauce. Gonna add a little bit of umami effect. Then we're gonna get our beef in there with the beef broth, a little bit of herbs, the kind you cook with, not the kind that cook you. And just let that simmer for about 2 to 2½ hours or until the meat is fork tender. All right, guys, so for your Irish stew, you can serve this up as is, just in a bowl and enjoy it with a roll or cornbread. You can serve it over rice, but my personal favorite way to do it is with mashed potatoes. And in Ireland, potatoes are a popular thing, so it makes sense for this recipe. We're gonna cut down and peel 3 russet potatoes for our mashed potatoes today. You guys have seen me make a number of potato recipes on this channel. This is gonna be fairly simple, just a nice garlic mash, complement the delicious Irish beef stew we're making. Just gonna go ahead and peel the skin off, cut them into bite-sized pieces, that way they cook a little faster, and then we're gonna clean them. All right, guys, so we added a little bit of salt to our potatoes. They're boiling right there in the background until they get nice and fork tender. Meanwhile, we're gonna go ahead and warm our butter and cream mixture. So for that, we need a 1/2 stick of butter and about 1½ to 2 cups of heavy cream, depending on the consistency in which you like your potatoes. If you want them a little bit smoother, add a little extra. If you like them a little bit lumpy or thicker, don't need to add as much. So we're gonna melt that butter. We're gonna add some garlic, about 1/2 block or 2½ ounces of Boursin garlic and herb cheese, a little AP seasoning, a little teaspoon of garlic paste. And that, my friends, is gonna make the best mashed potatoes you've ever had in your life. So you just wanna season this to taste. We salted the potatoes, so no need to go too crazy here. Just season it to your personal preference. I'm just using a little salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder, basically my all-purpose seasoning. Good blend there, but choose whatever you got at home or whatever you like. Just give this a mix until the butter is melted and that Boursin cheese is well incorporated. You can add a little Parmesan to this if you want to, really whatever flavors you like, a little truffle oil if you're going for a truffle mashed potato. But this is nice, simple, basic, but loaded with flavor. All right, guys, we're gonna break out the hand masher. Once the potatoes are nice and tender, just get in there, use a little elbow grease and mash them up. If you're gonna break out the hand mixer, that's cool too. I prefer my potatoes a little bit lumpy, especially with something like a stew. So we're gonna go ahead and just use the hand masher today. Once you got the potatoes about where you want them, we're gonna go ahead and start adding in that cream a little bit at a time. Give it a good mix. The potatoes will continue to kind of mash as you mix them. And you can taste for seasoning and add a little bit of salt if it needs it. This is the part where I say, brace yourself for a trademark money shot. Say it with me, guys. Looking good. The only thing left to do is dig in for the taste test. But before we do that, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell to enable notifications as well. The stew is tender. Jesus. St. Patrick's Day is finally on the way, and other than I had my whole you fucked me all up.